Are we good to go? It never ceases to amaze me. In this community, we have some of the most unbelievably competent and organised people in it that I've ever met. Incredibly hard to get you into a theatre on time, but apart from that, do we have everyone with us? Are we good to go? I think we're good to go. Right. Welcome to you all. I'm Honor, and I have the immense good fortune to be the CEO of British Exploring Society. I am very proud to have had the chance to be part of 6 British Exploring Society celebration evenings now. Proud, but I promise you not complacent. We've had to embrace difficult decisions, often seasoned with considerable frustration, particularly over the last 3 years. Our core values, courage, challenge, self-belief and community, I think you might be hearing a little bit more about those later this evening, have been put to the test and repeatedly. Pivot has become a byword for adaptation during the pandemic, and I have to remind myself that it doesn't just mean a change, but a shift around a fixed point. We've tried to stick to what we do best, delivering personal development, adventure and sharing knowledge, spending time developing trust with the help of our amazing leaders and between young people. So whilst much has changed, much has actually remained constant. Our community, you, have worked so hard to keep us focused and to adapt with us and to help us learn and move forward. I'd like to start this celebration with a massive thank you for your steadfast support for what we do. We believe, and others tell us, that we've actively moved forward as an organisation because of the forced adaptations we made during the pandemic. It seems we're in better shape. That's not to say the effort of getting here hasn't been tough and tiring, as well as very exciting. We see and feel huge rewards from working with and on behalf of amazing young people who might need to ask for more support, who may have to take smaller steps and need more time or more contact with us in order to start their own adventure. These individual precious journeys come with more responsibility, complexity, and therefore more challenge for us all. And we learn how much more we still need to do every day. Tonight is our first in-person, on our best behaviour get-together at the Royal Geographical Society since just before the first lockdown, and it's our first to mark our 90th year too. It's so good to see you all. I'd also very much like to welcome our guests who are joining us live online. Thank you so much for you making space for us and for helping us celebrate from wherever you are right now and conducting your own adventures right now. If you're new to us, we hope that tonight provides a really warm welcome to you. In sharing stories with our explorers, members and leaders, we hope you'll receive all the encouragement you need to come back to find out more and to join our community, our amazing community, in whatever capacity suits you best and is most rewarding here. I tell you, it's never dull. As I hope this evening will amply demonstrate, and as I myself have experienced repeatedly in my 6 years here, this is a community that steps forward, offers help, is there when you need it and goes the extra mile. It's also fun, informal and hugely talented, except possibly sitting down on time. But before we all get too comfortable, I want to share with you that we see this as the starting line for another journey and perhaps our most important so far, our progression towards our 100th birthday. We have many more challenges and more peaks to climb before then, and with your help, please. Later tonight, our chair, Ian, will describe the future we see for ourselves and why it's so important to us to achieve the goals we've set for ourselves between now and 2032. But just for one night, let's take a breath. Enjoy and reflect on what you have achieved, what we've achieved together, and in particular, on the lasting magic that time in the wilderness with our amazing leaders can still deliver. If we're ambitious for the future, it's because we're surrounded by people who make it possible for us to aim high, who would expect nothing less of us, and who inspire us every day. One of those is our president, Marvin Rees. Despite not being able to join us in person, Of course he wanted to contribute to our celebration, so here's his welcome to you, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening.
I'm Marvin Rees, Mayor of Bristol, and I really am sorry I can't be with you all tonight. The British Exploring Society celebrates its 90th year. And this is such a special occasion and a chance for all members of our community, partners, volunteers, members, patrons, and of course the young explorers themselves, to come together and recognise all that we've achieved. There's much to look forward to this evening as our young explorers, leaders and members share their stories from over the decades. And I have incredible memories of being in Svalbard, Spitsbergen with my own expedition, cooking on the open fire, travelling across the fjord in the speedboats, climbing mountains no one had ever climbed before, life-changing. But tonight, it's not just about looking back, it's also about looking forward to the British Exploring Society's ambitions for the next 10 years. You'll hear more about that later on. It's going to be an exciting decade ahead. Thank you all for joining us and for everything you do. I hope to see you all soon.
Starting words from Marvin, our president. Now, we're all brought together by the amazing shared experiences of our explorers across the years, despite many changes along the way. They always ask each other the same questions, doesn't matter when they went on expedition. And so just to kick us off, here's a tiny flavour of the conversational openers you'd almost always expect to hear our members introduce themselves to each other with. I fully expect to see lots of nods and possibly the odd moan from the audience.
Creative, community, and the best hot chocolate ever.
Challenging and interesting, but appreciative.
Crunchy, surprising, and tasty.
My worst experience on expedition was the midges.
100% the insects. Honestly, you don't understand until you've been on expedition the daily struggle of trying to get into your tent without getting like the minimum number of bugs inside. It was the daily struggle, and they would always get one or two in at least into your tent. You'd be sleeping at night and you'd be able to hear them all fluttering around in your tent.
Worst expedition experience? Well, I'll never have to shave in cold water ever again. Certainly was the welcome that we on the Long March received and were given as we returned to base camp. There was even a choir set up to sing to us.
I think it was one of our final nights. We were sat around the campfire, and over the course of our expedition, Let It Be by the Beatles had become our fire song, and we were singing Let It Be. The stars were out, it was a lovely clear night, we were stargazing, and we were nice and warm, we just had some lovely food, and in that moment nothing could have spoilt it.
One of the strangest sights on the Arctic Finland expedition in the warm summer of 1976 was to see a group of 85 people travelling on one railway ticket, wearing suits, which was still expected for young gentlemen to travel in, but with rucksacks and stubble, boarding the very small train on the branch line to Haparanda in northern Sweden. But perhaps the most memorable aspect came afterwards. You get back and nobody wants to know about the adventure.
And a word of advice that I would say is go for it and don't wear thermals up in Monterey.
Any advice I would give, I think
the word carpe diem comes to mind. You must seize the moment and embrace life.
Oh, return as an assistant leader again and again. It was one of the greatest times of my life.
And one of many thank yous to all the people who've contributed to this evening. As our young explorers get more confident, we hear and can learn from their amazing individual voices. It's a particular joy to see each young explorer find their own unique way to describe their journey. Kwazia, Amazon 2018, is our first explorer ambassador, and she's been sharing her passion for the restorative power of nature through City Girl in Nature, following her expedition with us. It's a remarkable journey. Kwazia has also been working with some of our most recent young explorers, encouraging them to find their own words and their own voices to describe the impact of their expeditions with us. So I'd like to invite Kwazia and her intrepid team onto stage now to try and describe their experiences.
Evening, guys. Hope everyone's feeling well and is having a good evening. So I'm Kwazia, as Honor mentioned, and this evening the young explorers are going to share with you some of the key no, not experiences. Not experiences. The key values, there we go, we got it. The key values of British Exploring Society. So yeah, as Honor mentioned as well, I'm the new British Exploring Society's ambassador, which is a huge opportunity, and I'm truly humbled for that to be my role also. But yeah, enough from me, and over to Emin.
Cool. I'm Emin, and is this on? Okay, I'm Emin, and I'm 14, and I went on the Dangor Scotland trip.
I'm Sunny, and I'm 18. I went on the landmark Scottish Highland trip.
I'm Mohammed, I'm 15, and I went on the Scottish Dangor expedition.
I'm Isaiah, I'm 16, and I went on the Hearts to Scottish Highlands trip.
I'm Catherine, I'm 18, and I went on to the Scottish Highlands Landmark 1 trip.
Hi, I'm Evan, and I went on the Hearts Scottish Explorers 2 trip.
Okay, so I'm going to start us off here with courage. I think I represented a bit of courage in the start of the expedition, which is my recruitment, if you can call it that, I suppose. I was first recruited by my teacher, actually. I was having a really hard time at school. I was hating London life, as you do. And, you know, I wasn't really having a great time. So she came up to me and said, "Hey, Emin, you know, there's a trip going on. Do you want to go with your friend?" I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah, I'll pick Mo." Mo's right there. Yeah, so she said, you know, you won't really know anyone there, and it'll be a new experience and everything, but it'll be fun, and hopefully you and Mo will have a great time. I wasn't on Mo's fire, so that was kind of disappointing, but it was a good experience to be alone. Anyway, I think it takes a bit of courage to at least, you know, do something new and experience new things. But yeah, and especially going from London life and that change it's quite hard, and I think that's courageous, I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm also going to talk about courage. I think one of the hardest bits of the expedition is not what people think is like the climbing up a mountain or like, you know, digging a poo hole. I think it's actually like, I'd never been on a train before, so not by myself anyway. So getting on the train, even to the training session, I was going all the way from Cornwall to Birmingham, and I had to navigate New Street, and it was a steep learning curve, but I'd had a whole adventure like before I even got to the expedition, and I think that the journeys that people take to get to the expedition is, you know, makes it. Yeah. Yeah.
And some people may remember this, and it's the first day. And once you get there, you think, oh, wow, this is where we're going to be for the past 2 weeks. And then it dawns on you, I'm going to be here for 2 weeks. You really think, oh, well, it's going to be fine, everything's cool. And then you get the great and amazing creature, midges. And that's when self-belief really comes into play, because when you're with a hardship such as midges, you really need to push yourself and believe in yourself more to really keep yourself moving on that trip and just keep pushing. And first half can be hell, second week's all right.
I just like to start saying, I kind of like, when I was going on my trip, I threw myself into the unknown. Like, I'm from London and I've never did anything like even remotely close to like camping. So the whole experience of me like going up there, I was just thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. Then I got to the base camp and I was just like, wait, I'm going camping now, like it all got so real. And then all like the anxiety started setting in and I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna hate me. I'm gonna have to spend 2 weeks with these people in the middle of nowhere. I'm not gonna have a shower. Like, I was like, whoa. But when I like got past all of that and I was surrounded by all the people, it was just like, you know what? It told me to like stop doubting myself, and I kind of apply that to all of my life now. So I have to like believe in myself to an extent, and it's like, don't think of the negatives in like situations, just go in with a clear, open mind and be optimistic, I guess.
Once you're on an expedition, you think, oh, I'm here, I've met all the people, we're all good, right? I'm used to the midges. And then you finally get over that mental hurdle, and then you see the mountains, and you're like, oh God, I don't think I can walk all of this. And you've got this massive bag on your back, and you've got this massive hill in front of you, and you're like, I haven't trained enough for this. I'm not ready. Like, you've got this massive challenge in front of you, but you've got your team and your fire beside you, and they support you throughout your challenges, and they kind of make it all better, and they take it at your pace, and they never make you feel like you're slowing them down or lessening their experience, because you're not. You're going through this challenge, and it's something new for all of you, and the expedition is for everybody, challenges or not, and you all end up having a load of fun, weird or not, anyway, so.
So I'd probably like to tell you guys probably about one of the biggest challenges for me, and this was probably the social element of it. So I've kind of grown up in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, and where most kind of probably teenagers would spend their times, maybe out in town, hanging out with friends, going shopping, I would spend my time in the woods, lighting fires, hanging out with the squirrels. So I've definitely had a bit of a different upbringing to most people, and growing up I've kind of not really hung around kids that necessarily my own age, more kind of younger kids or kind of older adults, and so going to spend 2 weeks in the middle of the nowhere with a bunch of people that I didn't know who were like my age, I was like, oh my goodness, how is this going to go? Like, how, you know, I had no clue what I was going to do, and so I'm going to tell you another story in a minute, but so I was like, basically, I'll just get on to the story. So we were... So yeah, we was like, I want to tell you about the first time where I really felt us kind of working together as a team, the first time when I really felt like we bonded. So I think it was the third day into the expedition, and we were just heading out on a day hike, just trying to get used to wearing the rucksacks, getting used to kind of quickly changing to waterproofs, which you had to do a lot of on this expedition. And it was driving wind and driving rain, which if any of you have been to Scotland on an expedition in the rain, you'll know what this is like. Even with the best waterproofs on, the best, a jacket, you're still going to get wet, okay? So we were soaked to the bone, and basically it was like we all had to huddle, and that was the only way that we could keep warm and the only way that we could keep dry. And we had to gather in together and come up with the plan, look at the map, and find a way to kind of find somewhere to shelter and find a way to get on and finish the trip. So yeah, that was I think the first time when I really felt that we were working as a team, when we really had trust in each other. Because on our own, if we were all just trying to shelter ourselves, keep ourselves warm, we wouldn't have lasted very long, and it would not have been a pleasant time. So yeah, I feel like after that point, after you kind of grab a load of young people, throw them into the wilderness, like I was kind of saying, we were all talking about this earlier, I was saying you can build a relationship with young people. What would take 3 years in a normal environment, you can build it in 3 hours, 3 days in the wilderness. It's just such an impactful environment.
Some amazing experiences, as you can tell, and the final kind of bit to it is now community. So what I'd like to ask the young explorers is, what does community mean to you?
For me, community with expeditions is, at the beginning of that expedition, we were like a fire of complete strangers, all from different places, different ages, different backgrounds, different passions, different characters, and then you go through this life-changing, transformative experience, and at the end, you come out as a team, almost like some sort of family.
For me, community is the people that make it possible to go on that amazing experience, the donors, the leaders, because the young people wouldn't be able to go without the leaders. They teach us what we know and how to not die, basically. Because I know for a fact without my leaders, I would be lost somewhere in Scotland right now. So it's the leaders and the young people themselves and all of those people working together to build this amazing experience that not just our generation get to share, generations past and future get to share.
Sorry, I had to see a word. To me, community is just in terms of camping, is all of us coming from such different backgrounds, different paths of life. No matter all our differences, all of us being able to just strip all of that down and then just get to the basic needs and have things like food and all of that. Just the little things bring us all together, really. And then we kind of just became a family.
Personally, if it wasn't for community, I wouldn't even be here standing in front of you. It was because of community that Emin got a choice to come to this trip, and it was community that gave me a choice to come to this trip. And with that community, you know that your basic needs are not going to be there. Well, yeah, but you need food, and you got your definitely not a shower, but but you know that if you're ever in a tough patch, you can always just ask your team and your fire, or even your leaders, and they'll put you right back into shape. And really, the leaders just helped me with the midges. Thank you.
I think that about the journeys and how everyone gets to the place where they're starting an expedition, how everyone gets to base camp means that when you're in a situation where maybe you're up a hill and something's gone wrong, or you're having a medical emergency and everyone needs to pull together at that moment, everyone's different experiences and what they've kind of gone through to get to that place means that you've got it covered. Everyone in that team is doing something different and bringing something different, so you don't have to worry about it because, everyone is helping to make that right. And then even watching that video about the past explorers, so I've never seen that before, but there was a dude that brought antlers home on the train, and I was like, oh my God, this is mad, because I did the same thing and I had no idea. And I was just like, this is what it is. It's the fact that that happened so like many years ago, and it can happen again, and it's like, yeah, the continuation for more people.
I think community is more of the wealth of knowledge that connects us all, as in, you know, like bushcraft and just general knowledge, I suppose, like the love for the wilderness and love for being around other people and having respect for each other. And just all of us being here, like we're all here today, that's a community. We all have our own experiences, our own knowledge. And I think it's really valuable to share that, as we've just done. And I think that's community, sharing knowledge, I guess.
So to end with something different, and what the Young Explorers actually wanted to do is ask you guys, what could any of you tell us and everyone else what community means to you in one word? We need some volunteers. In one word, what can... You guys got that one. Anyone else? Support. That's a good one. Spirit. Great. Thank you so much, guys.
The experiences you've gone through, and the expeditions I've been on with called BACS, they're exactly the same experiences. I couldn't put it in any better words than you guys have tonight.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you, guys.
We wanted to ask you if you had questions for us, because it's all good us like talking, but what do you actually want to know?
I'd like to ask, what do you think you got from the experience of British Schools, what I call British Schools Exploring Society? What did you get from the expedition that made you feel you can cope with the bigger world?
Being able to face unexpected situations.
Any other questions? What do you say? Any other questions?
Where are you going next?
That's not a question we can answer. That's the leaders you got to go to.
Canada.
Or there. Are we?
Evan, where are you going? Evan, where are you going next?
I'm going to Kyrgyzstan for 5 weeks this coming summer, which I'm very excited about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Is yours or not?
It's quite hard to follow that. I was slightly destroyed at several points during that. Thank you all so much. I think that's called job done, really. Except you will have heard at several points during that either direct or elliptical references to our amazing leaders. It's your turn now. Firstly, I'd like to thank the families who make these awards possible. They can't all be with us, but I think some of them are actually joining us online this evening. I think, for example, Ian and Janet, I think you're watching us online. Hello. I hope you're having a really fantastic evening. So we have 2 leader awards, and I'm going to invite the judges up in just a second, but I'd like to say a little bit about the awards first, because without our leaders, the extraordinary experiences you've just heard about, I'm trying very hard to hold it together, wouldn't have happened. So the Teddy, this has got quite a long title, sorry. The Teddy Watson Emerging Leader Award in memory of Jean Sinclair is designed to recognise and reward emerging talent or to identify new, additional or more senior leadership actions on behalf of a leader who may have worked with us for some time. The award was named after our previous chairman, Teddy Watson, and in memory of Jean Sinclair, who led for us in Greenland 83, Svalbard 87, South Greenland 92, British Columbia 93, and Shackleton, South Georgia 2003. The winner of this award receives £500, which is given by her family and in her memory. The Sinclairs are brilliant, active, enthusiastic supporters of British Exploring Society, which is why we're really glad you're with us this evening, and we're very glad to be able to recognise leadership talent with their support. The Les Morgan Leader of the Year Award is particularly to identify and celebrate consistent excellence in any area of leadership, or to recognise an individual who has supported and helped develop their fellow leaders, providing guidance and direction for them, as well as explorers in preparation for and throughout their expedition experiences. So these are really quite challenging awards. Les Morgan himself was a loved, committed and respected leader for British Exploring Society who would have joined us in championing the urgent need for the outdoors through lockdown and beyond. I just know he would. I hope he would also have approved our ambitions for the future too. He certainly would have pushed us, I'm sure. Since he sadly passed away in 2004, his family have kindly supported both our explorers and our leaders with awards and bursaries, and this award is supported by his family with a generous donation of £500. Now, the process of judging this is properly awful, so we enlist external judges to make the onerous task more straightforward. So I'd like to invite two esteemed individuals onto stage now. They are James Blake, who's the CEO of the Youth Hospelling Association. He also was a trustee there, and he's had major roles in local and national government and an academic past in community participation. And also David Williams, who has an amazing history in youth service management and in youth crime prevention and in CPD development, and is a multi-genre chart-topping singer and songwriter. Get that. So please welcome them both on stage, please.
Get the peepers on. What an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Anna. It's an absolute pleasure, and it's nice to share the stage with James Blake also. Somehow, I don't know how this happened, I got roped into being a judge of these very prestigious awards, and I'm very grateful for the honor. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about them for a second. So these awards, just to clarify what they're about, these are professional awards bestowed by colleagues, not by explorers. They are given recognition of aspiring leadership, whether it's still developing or hugely experienced individuals, the skill, the spirit that they have demonstrated during the expeditions. I'm going to be giving the award for the Watson's Award. And in terms of how we did that, we are looking at a particular set of criteria when we were doing this judging process. And the things that we were looking at were positive role modeling. We were looking for people's ability to step out of their role and support others. We were looking for people's ability to take on personal challenges. And also, we were looking for commitment and contribution to improved outcomes for young people. So quite a lot of things to consider. And it wasn't easy picking a winner. So those are the awards. Should I go on to say who the nominees are? Okay, so the nominees for this award were Matt Scott, who is a knowledge leader, Rihanna Mallon, a knowledge leader for Hearts ×2, Alistair Weaver, a base camp manager, and I'm missing one more, and David Lee. Right, so, dare I say who they are? Are you ready? This was so difficult. It was so difficult that we ended up with two winners. So, the winners for the Watson Emerging Leader Award in memory of Jean Sinclair is Alistair Weaver and Rihanna Mallon. Right. Brilliant. Now. All right. Please.
right, thank you very much.
Congratulations. I know that Rihanna cannot be with us, and so I have something to read for her. But I think I will give the stage to Alistair first, and then I will read this after. So bear with me.
Thank you very much. I was actually surprised that you could win an award for having so much fun, if I'm honest with you. Although, like I think Mo was saying earlier, if you thought you were nervous as young explorers, you should be a base camp manager. And look out on 35 hungry people. That's fear. But to be honest, you know, on reflection, I had such a fantastic experience myself. And not only would I want to thank everybody on base camp who helped me do what was actually a pretty difficult job, which we all did, but it was the young explorers that really made it for me. You folks were just so inspiring. I love seeing the world through your eyes. And it was so nice just to see like all of the positive things you want to go on and do in your lives. So from me, thank you very much to those of you online and those of you in the audience. Very honoured. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alistair. And so Rihanna apologizes that she can't be here with us tonight, and she sent this message. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being nominated for this award. This was my second time on a British Exploring Society expedition, first as a leader, YE Peruvian Amazon in 2009, and it was a wonderful, extraordinary, and every big awe-inspiring word you could think of. Being part of the Hearts team in the beautiful Scottish Highlands was a big highlight of my year. The people I got to share my time with, both fellow staff and young explorers, were truly inspirational. Whether it was rain, hail, midge, or a shine, they made it easy to get up every day smiling. I want to give a shout out to each of the young explorers on Hearts who overcame challenges in their stride, and especially mention Fire for teaching me so much about everything and anything. I am now an expert on Norse mythology and make a decent blaeberry oatcake crumble. Well done to all the nominees. I can only speak for Hearts, but I'm sure other leaders would agree when I say every single leader is worthy of an award. They were awesome. I just want to say thank you for being supportive and kind. I can't be there to celebrate this big occasion for the 90th anniversary tonight, but I am very excited and honoured to be a part of British exploring community and see what the next 10 years have in store.
Great. Well, thank you very much again to Honor for inviting me too. Can I just say how good it is to be actually here in 3D with real people? It's just absolutely fabulous. A few people had some expeditions to get here, I think, tonight. Not least David, actually, but anyway, ask him later. But everyone clearly, of course, had the skills to be able to navigate that without too many problems. And it was just great, just beforehand, to meet and chat to some of the nominees and bond a bit over midges. Which I can very much relate to, having spent lots of time in Scotland over the years. I was actually really envious just listening to that presentation, actually. Isn't that just brilliant? And I think you look around the world, given what we've been through over the last couple of years and what's happening around at the moment, and that connection between people and between places is just, I think, so critical to how we try and overcome some of those challenges. So I found that really inspiring. So, I mean, just to say, I mean, when this was, as David was saying, this was not, honestly, it was an awful process. I think it was a really happy process. It was an inspiring process, but it was quite a difficult process because, you know, we have the nominations in front of us. They're all brilliant. We did do a proper assessment against the criteria, checked in with Honor in case there's anything we ought to know about, but fundamentally, actually, I think we found it quite easy to agree in the end. So that was good. But just to say, everyone was brilliant and all would be worthy winners, and I think that was what made it difficult, wasn't it, I think, overall. I guess in the end, perhaps we were just looking for that extra thing that just stood out for us. So a reminder, the Les Morgan Award, Leader of the Year Award, it's the criteria that David mentioned, but particularly that consistent excellence in leadership, I guess we were looking for. So
if we can go on with to the shortlist. So first of all, several nominees here. So first of all, Claire Fitchett, Deputy Chief Leader and Medic on the Dan Gore Next Generation Scotland programme. Dan Mazindu, Chief Leader on the Dan Gore Next Generation programme in Scotland. Graham Johnston, Adventure Leader on the DNG Scotland and Hearts Scottish Explorers programme. Jenny Richardson, Deputy Chief Leader and Venture Leader for Hearts Scottish Explorers again. Paul Batterbury, Chief Leader on Hearts Scottish Explorers. Sue Brown, Base Camp Manager, Landmark Scottish Highlands. And Susanna Cass, Knowledge Leader for DNG Scotland and Hearts Scottish Explorers. So there are your 7 nominees, and the winner is someone who particularly, I think, impressed us against all of the categories, all the criteria, with kind of her selflessness, commitment, and particularly when the expedition unfortunately came across a kind of a nasty attack of COVID. I guess that was bound to happen last year in the way that she handled that. And that person, that winner is Claire Fitchett. So as you'll probably have gathered, Claire isn't here, because in case you were wondering. So, but she has provided a little statement. She's really sorry she can't be here. So what she said is, well, firstly, my apologies for not being with you all this evening. Unfortunately, work is getting in the way of fun. So she says, to be nominated for this award was humbling. To have won is overwhelming. I've been so fortunate to have worked with so many inspirational British Exploring Society leaders and young people throughout my time volunteering with this phenomenal charity, a passion of mine that continues to grow every year. I'd also like to thank the excellent HQ team, trustees, and wider British Exploring Society community who work tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure young people are given the opportunity to join expeditions and personally develop within the wonderful British Exploring Society family. I accept the award on behalf of all those I've worked alongside who've developed me into the person I am today. She finishes that not long until the Spring Explorer expedition and the summer programme. I hope everyone continues to explore, develop and have fun whilst being part of this amazing charity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So,
Thank you very much indeed to both of you and to all our amazing winners. When they say thank you to me for asking them, I feel a slight tension when they said that. Anyway, right. It's a very hard job and we're really grateful for your support. Thank you so much. It's important to note that our volunteer leaders are also our most significant donors because they gift us hundreds of hours of professional time. The stories that our young explorers share about transformation and adventure grow from the trust and skills that our leaders provide around them. Now, they tend to be a self-effacing bunch and they aren't given to bragging, so please take that into account as they now share with us what motivates them to volunteer their time with us as leaders and what keeps them returning to us and what they think of the future of expeditions. So this session now is going to be led by Sam Drawbridge, and he's going to be joined on stage by Matthew Scott, Landmark 21, Andrew McCabe, Landmark 21, Gabby Wood, Hearts 21, and Sophie Redlin, Iceland 18, and UK Explorers 19. Is that right? Yes. Will you welcome on stage, please?
So just bear with us whilst we do a little bit of a switcheroo here. Perfect. We all okay? Yes, we are. Thank you, Anna, for that introduction. And let me start off by saying thank you to our leaders here that are up on stage with me. Who volunteer so much of their time to give the experience that young explorers have. So as Honor mentioned, we're going to talk about a few topics tonight. First of all, I'm going to ask about sort of what were your motivations for joining British Exploring Society and leading with us? To nobody in particular, who would like to kick us off? Who's feeling brave?
Everyone's looking at me, okay.
I'm happy to start. No. I am so inspired hearing the stories of these young guys. I did my first expedition at 17, and with the Yorkshire Schools Exploring Society, I have to say, not the British Exploring Society. But it really changed my life, and I'd always wanted to play a part in sort of facilitating that for others, I suppose. And I'd always heard amazing things about British exploring from people who'd led with them and people who'd been on their expeditions. So it was always a bit of a dream, and I've just, found such a welcoming team and such a great organisation. So that was my motivation.
Cool, thank you, Sophie. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm happy to go.
Awesome, thank you.
So I think likewise, I'd had an opportunity similar when I was younger, which was total counterpoint to my sort of family experience. So it's that understanding that, you can open your eyes to a whole new world. And I'd been aware of BES through work for some time, but it wasn't until COVID that I actually reached out to Caroline and then Honor. And I think I was really acutely aware that, especially at the start of the pandemic, young people were so disproportionately affected by a lot of the restrictions and closures, and it felt like a time where you needed organisations to be so brave to try and find new ways to provide those sort of enrichment opportunities. And from that first conversation that I had with Caroline and Honor, they were like, I was trying to, I don't know if it's a compliment or not, doggedly pragmatic about finding a way to serve that need. And it was such a motivating environment to be in at that time. So it was that sort of leaning in at a time when we were all retracting. And that led to being part of Hearts last year.
Awesome, thank you, Gabby.
So I wasn't feeling the restrictions of lockdown and wanting to escape that we all felt. I guess I'll go into why I joined. I wasn't so aware of BES before I looked for quite a long time online to find something that gave the opportunity to support young people, but in a sort of, as a youth development charity, obviously outdoors, but also giving the opportunity for sort of anyone, someone like me, a little bit of experience working with young people in mental health, and having the chance to help others in an environment which, it's a challenge basically, and we don't often get that opportunity in life where a challenge is also therapeutic. We need challenges, and that pulls us up. It gives us the skills we need to then go through, obviously, anything in life, but it also can almost sort of heal any sort of difficulties we're having in that moment. So, working in mental health, I saw that this is an area which wasn't being utilised as much as I felt like it should be. But luckily I saw the opportunity in BES, and I just felt like it was an opportunity I couldn't miss, basically. So I feel fortunate to be here, really. I'm surprised that there aren't many other leaders or people around, with all their experience wanting to be part of this, but I'm sure that will happen. But that's a big part of as to why.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and then for me, right from when I was in school, I was involved in various bits and pieces, sort of youth-based voluntary work and sort of voluntary leadership roles. Back 2019, I was kind of on the lookout for something that would allow me to sort of continue that youth-based voluntary work, but that would align with sort of my nature conservation, outdoor pursuits, travel type interests, and the opportunity to sort of become a volunteer leader with British Exploring Society popped up. And that ticks all those boxes, all three. So I submitted what felt like a fairly optimistic application, invited to the assessment day, and here I am now. So I'm still sort of surprised that I got took on as a leader and that I'm sitting here now, but hey, here we are. So
Awesome, thank you for that, everyone. So Sophie, I think you've led with us on a couple of expeditions, right? And the rest of you have led with us for the first time last year and are coming back again this year. So what kind of makes you return as a leader? What keeps bringing you, what motivates you to keep coming back? To anyone in particular?
You said we're coming back.
Well, I hope so.
Caroline said we're coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Gabby, what makes you...
Like you cannot, there are so many, there's a million responses to that question, right? And like right from the really big stuff about the ethos and mission and like vision of BES down to the like micro moments that you have with your team that just make you want to do it all over again. So I think it's that combination. It's, for me, getting to spend, 2 weeks with my team was a total pleasure. I might respond differently if it was 5, but 2 weeks. And seeing the world from a different perspective and from the perspective of an amazing group of 14-year-olds, you want to do it all over again. I think there's something about just this community and the leadership structure. It's so collegiate and collaborative and inspiring, and it makes you want to be, it makes you want to do your role as well as you possibly can. And I think just one thing that really stood out to me is that there was just like such a culture of intentional kindness on our expedition. And some of that, it just comes through, being aware of those around you, but it was intentional and it kind of breeds and it becomes self-fulfilling. And that's just such a positive environment to be in for a month or 5 weeks or, 12 weeks as our expeditions get longer, And so, you want to do it all over again.
Awesome. Cheers, Gabby. And does any of that resonate with the rest of you, or do you have other reasons that keep bringing you back as well?
Something for me. So as I say, I've done various bits of youth-based volunteer work over the years, and you always see personal development of varying degrees, varying levels, that you always see it. There's always positive growth whenever you're working with young people and whenever they're working together. But what really sort of, I'd say, blew me away about Expedition last summer with BES was just the intensity of that growth and personal development and the amount of it and the level of it. As some of the Ys were reflecting earlier, like you're thrown in to the mix with all these people you don't know in an environment you don't know, and all of that sort of cooked up in a big pot together. Sort of, it really did blow my mind just how much people do grow, and not just the YEs, but I thought I felt I grew myself, and you could see other leaders around you growing as well. So that really motivated me to come back and sort of stick at this. So
awesome. Cheers.
I definitely agree with that as well. And you have almost limiting ideas about yourself. I came in thinking that I'm a bit introverted. Being for 2 weeks with a group of teenagers, how am I going to survive? First time doing an expedition. Do I need to go back to my tent every 10 minutes? But I was surprised. I coped better than I thought, and I came back home and I was thinking, actually, maybe I'm not an introvert as much as I thought. And that was quite big. I work in mental health, and I think there's a few things that are clear. Maybe there are a few different types of people, but really don't do that. Don't set ideas on who you are. But if you do, then at least challenge them and have a challenge to do that. And so I definitely learned a lot about myself, and I was surprised about what I learned. I didn't go in thinking, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to learn a little bit about nature, I'm going to build this skill about myself, and you find out when you come back, oh no, I learned something that I didn't even expect, and that's what I like about it.
Awesome. Cheers. And Sophie?
I think for me it was treating blisters that brought me down. I just love it.
You're a glutton for blister treatment then?
What's that?
You enjoy blister treatment?
Yes, yeah. Although I would say Graham was better at it than me, wherever you are, Graham, with your pocket knife. Like Gabby said, there are so many reasons, I think. I think the bubble and the community that you get on an expedition is just totally unique and unlike anything else. And it feels, as much as the midges and the difficult times, I think experiencing that is such a privilege. And then again, I would echo I also have a great interest in mental health. And I think seeing, particularly for me, obviously being in Iceland and Scotland, the emphasis from British Exploring on the kind of development of people in the wilderness. So not only this kind of organic, what do we get from being outside, which is obviously great, but more and more work around what can we do with those conversations in the wild? How can we give people tools to take back to difficult situations? And I was privileged to be with a group of young people who, many of them were in very difficult situations at home. And I think seeing those qualities come out was just like the most rewarding thing. So yeah, definitely bring me back again.
Awesome. Thank you. So that leads us on to our last topic to chat about tonight. What do you think the future of British Exploring Society expeditions looks like? Anybody?
How far in the future? I mean, well, I guess, as I said, you know, I was surprised at how an organisation like this, I didn't hear about it before. I might have just switched off past. Yeah, I didn't hear about it before. But so I imagine that the more people hear about it, they're going to want to be part of it in some way. So maybe it'll obviously maybe grow in size, and that might lead to, you know, many more opportunities. That's sort of what I see. You know, it's definitely something that would get a lot of attention. It's in kind of, you know, we've been in lockdown as well. This is the way out, you know, so it's got that aspect as well.
Awesome, cheers. So sort of expanding the scope. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. So I was reflecting on this sort of question, thinking about it. So my role on expedition was a knowledge leader, so I took a deep dive into thinking about it from that point of view. So I guess expeditions traditionally, they go to sort of unknown areas, wilderness areas. You're not just BES expeditions, but generally speaking, to gain knowledge, to understand the environment, understand the impact of humans on it, stuff like that, and try and think about what can be done to improve those environments and lessen human impacts. So I guess something potentially for going forward would be the knowledge projects and expedition. Some of them look at human impacts and the environment, but I guess going forward, how can expedition teams, the organisation, WISE themselves, how can they potentially address some of those impacts, be they negative impacts, or help to improve the environment they're in or the wilderness area they're in, or even closer to home. So I guess how could WISE, the organisation leaders, be involved in sort of practical asks or tasks before, during, or after expedition? Yeah, how could that be built into maybe sort of the explorer journey with the organisation, or as I say, actually when they're out in the field, to make, not just sort of do the research, to understand the environment and the problems and issues there, but how can they actually effect a positive, practical change also? So that's something that I sort of thought through.
Cool, thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reflecting on the role of partnership, and I imagine there's quite a lot of partners. We're all partners in some way, aren't we? But I was thinking of those pathways that young people take to participate, and you know, the incredible work that we've seen, I don't know, over the last 10 years, or I suppose 90 years, to bring that opportunity to as many people as possible, and to increasingly bring that to people who wouldn't have heard about it or had that opportunity previously. And partnership's going to be essential in that. But it's also going to be essential in climate literacy, or thinking about how expeditions are shaped, and you know, all of these big issues. And so I think that's really exciting. And one of the things that's really stood out to me about BES is that they're a listening organisation. I mean, that's kind of probably what they're doing tonight, even though we don't realise they're probably listening. And every problem or challenge that's faced, and we're going to face more and more of them, aren't we, in our complex world, BES stop and they ask their community to participate in finding those answers. And I think so that role of partners, you know, over the next decade or however long is going to take us in many new directions. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Cheers, Gabby. Anything to add, Sophie?
Yeah, I think all of those things are an amazing thing to think about. I think probably just touching on what I said last in terms of, I suppose, what we can learn from the world that you create on expedition in terms of relationships, community. And I think things like the Wilderstan, the online programs, were such a great example of taking those messages out, reaching even more people, and really focusing on the work that comes after expedition as well, and seeing what these people are doing afterwards, which is very inspiring. So I hope more of that.
Awesome, excellent. Yeah, so I'd just like to ask everyone now to join me in giving a round of applause to our leaders and for their contribution tonight and on Expedition.
Thank you all so much. On behalf of everyone at the British Exploring Society and every young person, can I also say just a huge thank you to all our leaders, because none of the magic would happen without you. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Okay, this is probably the most important point of the evening, so I need some help on this one. We need to be mob-handed. So please can I have Kate Seward, Caroline Hodges and Ian McGuinness on stage for one of the big moments, please. So, our Young Explorer of the Year Award is supported by Les Morgan's amazing family and accompanied by a specially commissioned trophy, which is made for our winner each year in glass. Nominations are sent in by our leader teams and they make for uplifting and extraordinary reading. It is a very hard process, and you're right, not awful, James, but hard to shortlist, as you can imagine. Every young person who makes it to the shortlist is worthy of absolute adulation. This is everyone's chance, feel briefed, to raise the roof, but there are some instructions to follow, okay? I'd like to ask Caroline who share the citations for our group, but we're going to invite them on stage first. She will read out the citations, which are basically the words that our leaders have written about those young people. When Caroline has finished those amazing words, feel free to go mad and scream, shout and whoop. And then Kate Seward will announce the winner. She won't clap because she'll drop the award and that would be messy. And then Ian McGuinness, our chair, will hand out our certificates and the actual trophy to our winner. Does that all make sense? Right, okay. Right, okay. So, are you reading out the names or am I reading out the names? Right, I'm reading out the names. Okay, right. I'm not sure if everybody has actually made it here tonight because, of course, it's really difficult for everyone, but here we go. Here are our amazing list of shortlisted Explorers of the Year who've overcome challenge, shown bravery or leadership on expedition. They are Catherine Rowe, Courtney Crone and Lucy Heseltine from Heart's Scottish Explorers, Eddie Halorn and Sunny Elvey from Landmark, and Jessica Spooner and Kathleen Kearney from Dangor Next Generation. Please come and join us on stage if you're with us tonight. Please, please.
Citations yet. Just wait how much applause there's going to be when I've read the citations. It's going to be amazing. Right, I will be reading citations both for the people that are on the stage and also there are some people who can't be here with us this evening. You've had your instructions from Honor. No clapping until the end, because there's a lot to clap in here. It's really good. Okay, Lucy Heseltine. Lucy is a leader and can take charge and rally the team around. She was not afraid to call it if another team member was not pulling their weight or was doing something against the team charter. She was supportive of other team members. I would describe her as the team glue, really key to bringing and keeping the team together. Courtney Crone. Courtney approached her expedition with determination, resilience and humour. It wasn't always easy and there were definitely highs and lows, but she stuck with it. On one of the days, she had terrible blisters, but she still kept up with the group, dishing out hilarious comments throughout the day. This was definitely a challenge for Courtney, and she completed her expedition with pride. Sunny Elvey. Sunny played a pivotal role within the group. Even when she was cold, wet, and tired, she was able to sense when others needed something and acted on that sense with remarkable maturity. She is a natural, enthusiastic, knowledgeable leader, an excellent communicator with a kind and empathetic nature. Eddie Halloween. Eddie was the most obvious leader of the Wise, and I think the one that they might have chosen themselves. His energy and enthusiasm always lit up and kept the fire going. He helped everyone with tips and guidance, moral support, carrying extra weights, putting up tents, often in the rain, and always volunteering himself for extra jobs. He even kept the morale up when the difficult decision to retreat was made, which I'm sure was much to his personal disappointment. Catherine Rowe. I said there was lots. There's so much good stuff in here. And I should say, I had to trim these citations down, which was an agonizing task in and of itself. Sorry, Catherine Rowe. Catherine showed a lot of determination and really challenged herself physically and socially. It was amazing to see her go from quiet, reserved, and lacking in confidence to speaking up and taking an active role in the group, and then taking on leadership roles with confidence. She was adept at spotting and opening up about tensions within the group. Caitlin Kearney. Caitlin showed a strong and determined personality. If she had a goal in her mind, regardless of how difficult, she was going to achieve it. While doing this, she would bring humour and fun to the moment. She embraced the challenges of the expedition in an enjoyable way and appreciated that sometimes things just get tough. Caitlin was the smallest explorer we had in stature, but the biggest by far in personality. There is no denying that the expedition for Jessica, like for many others, Jessica Spooner, was a series of increasingly tough challenges. Jessica dug deep to find and build the mental resilience to get through these obstacles. Though at moments she had low points and contemplated going home, she didn't. She kept putting one foot in front of the other, literally and metaphorically. And that is our shortlist.
So I'm just going to put this down because I don't want to break it. So, the winner of this year's Les Morgan Memorial Award goes to, drum roll, Sunny. Congratulations.
Well done. Very good. You are poor thing. Right. You should notice in the top right-hand corner of your certificates, there is a very interesting picture. And you'll see that it's a campfire, just like the campfires you've always known. But that campfire was a picture taken by Roald Dahl in 1934 on his expedition. It's another example of how everything has changed and nothing has changed. And welcome to the community and congratulations, all of you. That was good cheering. Well done. Amazing. Fellowship of British Exploring Society is bestowed by our trustees on individuals who have and continue to make a significant difference to our work, or to the positive impact on the sector as a whole. Nominations tend to be particularly focused on those who set the bar higher, change our thinking, champion values which mirror ours, and who passionately advocate the value of access to the outdoors. Belinda Kirk, Cyanide 97, Lesotho 98, Alaska 2001, and Amazon 2002, was our youngest chief leader and has gone on to create accessible networks to encourage people to get outdoors. Her recent book, The Adventure Revolution, is a fantastic, accessible guide to the value of the outdoors for us all. We're very proud that Belinda has accepted fellowship this year and joined our select crew of existing fellows, which includes pioneers like Sir Anne Fiennes, John Blashford-Snell, and Ben Saunders, and decorated professionals like Dr. Lucy Obolensky and Dr. Pete Allison. It's a shame that Belinda can't join us to receive her fellowship in person, but the good news is she's on a personal adventure with her family, which is exactly where she should be, and better still, she's kindly recorded a video message for us to share with you now.
Hi, I'm Belinda Kirk. I am so sorry not to be with you tonight at the celebration evening. I would have loved to have been there. I have probably the only excuse that is acceptable. I'm on a micro expedition here with my family in the Canary Islands. We're attempting to walk across some of the islands, eventually all of them, hopefully. So I'm so sorry not to be there. I would have loved to have been there so much, especially on this 90th year. What a fantastic time to celebrate all the work of BES over the years. I've been a massive fan of BES for a very long time. I hadn't realised how long until I looked back before this message. 1994 was the first expedition I went on with BES, and that was to the Sinai. Since then, I have led expeditions to Alaska, Lesotho, and the Amazon with BES, and have really fond memories of all of those trips. Probably the most fond memory, especially looking back, when you think about what you've done with your life and what you've been involved with, I'm just so honoured to have worked with BES, because I have witnessed the impact, the life-changing impact that BES has firsthand by being lucky enough to be a leader on some of the expeditions that they run. And I think now more than ever, we need adventure, we need natural challenge to show us what we can do. And I don't think there's a better gift that we can give young people than to take on a BES expedition. Simply the commitment just to attempt it is beneficial, I think. You start to see yourself in a different way. You have to be brave, basically, to do that. And being brave is never a bad thing. It gives us great confidence going forward. And then to actually survive a BES expedition, and let's face it, we all know it's not easy. They're never easy, but they're always meaningful. And I think we learn, I've learned through expeditions like that the most important stuff in life isn't easy. Not often anyway. And that sometimes you have to work at things, but probably more than anything, that we're capable of so much more than we think, and a BES expedition is a perfect way to discover that. And I think that's the most wonderful gift you can give to anyone, that they can do more than they think they can. I know for me, my first expedition that I joined, it taught me that I could do much more than I thought. It gave me great confidence and empowerment, and that's a wonderful thing, especially in your anytime actually, but especially in your teens and late teens, early 20s. So massive fan of BES and everything they do, and especially really honoured to become a fellow this evening or this year. So thank you very much for that. It's a massive honour. I will continue to champion the work of BES, and hopefully I'll see you at the next celebration. Have a really great night. Cheers!
Huge welcome to Belinda. I hope she makes it back in one piece. Her micro-expedition is with some quite small people. I think she's finding it quite challenging. Our members, as you may have gathered, may often introduce themselves in person and in email or letters with their expedition year as a sort of shorthand. Jane Parkweir, Alaska 95, and a trustee of British Exploring Society, has gamely agreed to guide a conversation between herself and fellow members whose expedition experiences span 30 years with an emphasis on the impact expedition has had and continues to have on their lives. So please can we welcome on stage Anthony from Arctic Norway 65 and Greenland 88, Mark from Arctic Finland 76, Abigail from Arctic Norway 89, John from Arctic Norway 89, Damien from Svalbard 90, and Jane from Alaska 95.
Good evening. So many years of sitting that side and feeling really comfortable and really enjoying listening to everyone else, and finally finally honour's made me come and sit up here. But it's just an honour to be here this evening, and great to see so many people. I mean, what a tough gig to follow all of these amazing stories from what's happened this year, last year, from our wonderful leaders, from just to hear everything that people have got out of their expeditions. And I think the purpose of this chat is really to talk about the fact that it doesn't stop there. It lasts an awful lot longer. I was sort of listening earlier to you guys, our young explorers, and going, well, what are we going to talk about? Because it's what you said. All of the impact of expedition is what you said. But the reassuring thing, I think you'll find, is that that stays with you. So before we kind of kick off any further, I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves with their name, rank, and number. So name, expedition, and maybe a sentence about yourself. Should we start with Anthony?
Okay, Anthony Evans. In 1965, yes, you can go back that far in the history books, I went as a young explorer to the Svartisen ice cap area of Norway. I was in the Commando Fire, as it was called in those days, and was chosen for the Long March, which you don't have nowadays, but was a great honor. Then in 1988, I was base camp manager for the East Greenland expedition, and Andy, my redoubtable deputy, is here today, so it's great to see you, Andy. And then I became a trustee for half a dozen years. And lastly, I've done a little bit of interviewing, which you don't do now, it's all done centrally. But I've done quite a lot of different things within the society.
Thank you, Anthony. Damien.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Damien. I was in Svalbard in 1990 in Alpha Fire. And I am currently living in Edinburgh at the moment, and I'm a surgeon.
And I mean, I've already said who I am, but I started off not sitting on this stage, obviously, but as a rather introverted, shy girl from the southwest of England with something of an addiction to Dartmoor, and went on my expedition in Alaska and found out there was an awful lot more of the world out there. John.
Hello, I'm John, and I was, as you can see, Arctic Norway in 1989. I was opening a tin, and I do remember I looked at my diaries. And my diary, from which I just found in the loft, and eating seemed to be a big part of the expedition. Eating, sleeping, and chatting. I'm sure there was more to it than that, but that's what it seemed like. And since then, I've done lots of things in the outdoors, of which the expedition was a big part.
Mark King. I was on the Finland 76 expedition, which of all of the 90 years is probably the cushiest of all. In a beautifully warm summer, shirts off most of the time, canoeing down the rivers in Finland and so on, light wind to keep the midges off and so on. So very jealous of that. From a different world, though, and yet there's so much that's still very much the same. Now a retired civil servant, so I can spend my time going to interesting places like Ukraine and New Guinea and the Antarctic. So happy to chat to anybody later about any of those.
I'm Abigail. I went on an expedition in 1989 to Arctic Norway. It was a parallel expedition to John's, so we must have met, but we don't remember meeting. And I think one of the best things about 1989, I kind of feel now, that is it was only about the 8th or 9th year that girls got to go on expedition, and I only realised that recently. I didn't know that at the time, and I still feel quite proud, even though it was 8 or 9 years after the first one, that girls were going on expedition. I'm wearing a black T-shirt because I'm a member of staff. I'm now a membership officer at British Exploring, have been since last June. Journey took me all sorts of places, but I'm back here with the family and I'm loving it, and I feel so privileged to be in this position. So, and I should say, I went on an expedition to prove my mum wrong. I think she's looking down on me today, going, I got you here.
Mothers have a tendency to do that, though, don't they? So let's talk a little bit about the impact of individual expeditions. Obviously, it had enough of an impact that we're still in touch with British Exploring and we're still here this evening. But maybe I'll kick off with you, John. what influence, this is a well-scripted fireside chat, by the way, what influence do you feel your expedition experiences have had on the decisions and choices you made since you were in Norway in 1989?
A long time ago. Well, I wasn't a shy young girl from the southwest, but I was a shy young boy from the northwest, and had spent all my time really in Stockport and Manchester and the Peak District, so didn't have any experience of even the rest of the country, never mind the rest of the world, and different types of people from all over the country. You tend to just mix with quite similar people at that age. I certainly did anyway. So a big part of what I learned from the expedition was just dealing with different people, much broader horizons of people from all walks of life, all parts of the country. We were talking before, believe it or not, we have prepared for this session, and we were talking, and Jane and others talked about the buzz when you come back from expedition. I have to say, I didn't feel the buzz. I felt shell-shocked. I'd spent 6 weeks. I think I had one shower. And it was an experience. It really was an experience. And I think it took the resilience and the problem solving and the ability to address difficult situations. That took a long time, I think, for me to come through. And it's only perhaps in my career or in family life or difficult situations with parents or something where the skills and the experiences that you have sometimes take an awful long time to come out and to really sort of hit home. And then you think, where's this strength coming from? And it's not solely from bears, obviously, but it's from things like this expedition where you find that inner strength, which you think, right, well, it was tough then, and that's why I'm strong now. I'll also say that there were more tangible things, like, as I mentioned, at university I went on to do quite a lot of mountaineering, and climbed a lot of mountains, and I wouldn't have done that had I not had the experience on glaciers and in the far north of Norway. So there were both obvious and more long-lasting benefits.
I think that's right. The resilience that you get, you don't necessarily realise you're learning it at the time, and you kind of hope that you don't have to put it into practice too often, but life throws all sorts of curveballs. And I certainly remember coming back and having that buzzer coming back, but also really finding it difficult to sit anywhere other than the floor. Chairs and sleeping on the bed, rather than on a mat on the floor was really, that was the kind of immediate thing. And then it's only years later where something happens and you think, do you know what? I sat on that glacier in the sleet, counting rocks for days on end, and it was really miserable. And I had a big fight with my fire mate because we didn't agree on something, and it was all because of the stress and the strain. And actually, you then look around and, well, how did I solve it? I did solve it. We got through it, and we were great mates, and we stayed in touch. And that friendship that you build, born out of that shared sort of challenge experience. You come to draw on it in later life. I mean, Damien, coming to you, what do you feel was a key lesson that you learned on your expedition and that's maybe stayed with you?
That kerosene in a cig bottle feels exactly the same at the bottom of a rucksack as water. That was a very painful lesson to learn. No, I think we've heard it this evening. I mean, British Exploring Society is just, these expeditions are a catalyst where it's, taking somebody's potential and just activating that for their lives. And I think that was the same when we were there, and that happened, you heard it with John, everybody's what they've all just said, but we've also heard it with our young explorers now. And what I've personally learned, though, was, the lessons that you learn on your expedition, you don't stop learning from them 40 years later, 30 years later for me. And part of it we heard, I think Andrew was saying something about that, about self-awareness. You learn just as much about yourself as you learn about other people, and you learn just as much about how to deal with those parts of yourself that you may not like as much as the good parts, and the same when you're interacting with others. And those lessons never stop teaching you, even now, every day for me. Yeah,
I mean, you'd never stop learning anyway, but I think it's just such a massive It's a massively important grounding, and if you can, I think you never forget. You might go on a holiday. People say, you know, what's the difference? It's a trip. You come back from a holiday, you might look at some photos and have some memories, but things that you do on expeditions, we still talk about them today. And you may joke that we introduce ourselves as our expedition name and number, but it's always with that, God, do you remember when we did this? And it's like it was yesterday.
And just one more tiny thing. We haven't heard a huge amount about it tonight, but about the fragility of the world, because that is where you really see it in action, Svalbard then. And looking back at the photos from my expedition and photos you can see now of Svalbard, and just seeing the dramatic change, it really just hits it home.
Yeah. Coming on to you, Mark, I mean, you were on expedition in Finland in 1976, and I know you've stayed in contact with polar regions ever since, but how do you feel about being a member of British Exploring today? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's why have I been paying up a membership fee for 4 decades when I've not been able to actually actively participate? I think there were 2 things that were important for me. One was, as has been mentioned before, the teamwork, coping particularly with the team to get things done, but also with other member teams. In those times, the biggest surprise that we had a vegetarian. Never met anybody before who didn't eat what they were given. I mean, that was really a big shock. Of course, again, we didn't have mental health. It was all Crocodile Dundee approach. You tell Wally, Wally tell everybody it's fine. No data protection, none of that sort of part of the thinking about it. But I think what I have supported there, and particularly BSES, because it wasn't uniformed, which for me was quite an important thing, although I've been involved in scouting and other things through being district chairman and so on, the lack of uniform was actually quite an important part of that you've still got a team here. And the teamwork I mentioned before was something that was absolutely critical for learning that. But the infantilization of 17-year-olds, I think, is the thing which has been happening in society, and which BSES and now British Exploring is really good at fighting back against. There has been nothing more tedious. I mean, I found with my son when he was 15 and 17, so depressing not being able to do all of the things we used to do because, oh no, health and safety, oh no, totally unreasonable. And that get up and go, yes, you can do it, for people who aren't yet 18, is, I think, perhaps the thing which has kept me interested and supporting for as long as I've been. Remember, when I started, the old codgers had been on the first trip.
And I'm looking over at Abigail. You know, you've been on an expedition. You come back to BES. You know, was it anything that you experienced on your expedition you think that's brought you back today? That's had that impact of coming back to join the fold?
I think the sense of community that comes from being involved in any aspect of British Exploring Society. I think that lived experience, you know, if you've been on an expedition, there's nothing quite like it. And however much you come home and rave about it, I think one of the voice recordings was saying, it might be you, Mark, but kind of said that people didn't want to hear about it. I talked about it for weeks. I cried for weeks. I grieved for weeks after I came back from expedition. I still can't articulate it 30 years later. Then I've followed British Exploring through, and there was a research project a few years ago that was looking at impact. And I guess in my day, there was less talk about mental health, and there was less kind of realising those skills I'd learned, or kind of being able to articulate them. And yes, I went to university interviews, and people immediately asked me, "What's this thing you've done? What is British?" And I was able to tell them, but I didn't know that I was articulating kind of vital life skills. And so when I got involved with the research project a few years ago, it really made me start thinking back about how it influenced me. And I have a teenage daughter, and a couple of years ago, she was looking at gap year projects. So I was like, look at British Exploring Society. Didn't say do it, because I knew she wouldn't, because that would be the whole proving your mum wrong. My daughter was on expedition last summer, and she had an amazing time. And I think it's that having been part of it, and then just being so excited that my daughter's had that opportunity too, and now working and seeing all the other young people who get these opportunities. And there's a young gentleman here who talked about kind of stripping back, and then you also said about kind of having that inner confidence. You've done something like an expedition. I remember, I probably don't do it quite so often now, but certainly in my 20s, whenever I hit a tough time, I would say to myself, I can hack this. I've been on a British Exploring Society expedition. And I had this little maternal voice, and every little hiccup or problem, it kind of paled into insignificance.
There's something levelling about the midges in the poo pits, and they are common to all expeditions. Coming on to you, Anthony, look, you were a young explorer in 1965. Do you still talk about it? Is it still impacting your life every day?
We have a reunion every year. Brilliant.
That's fantastic.
We do.
How many people come now?
4. But if you find any more, send them along.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interject. I think a new one has been added to your group very, very recently. There was an accidental meeting. All over some burnt boots, apparently.
I'm hoping they haven't been lost in the interim. But seriously, so how do your expedition experiences, both as a young explorer and then latterly as a leader, how have they impacted your life?
Can I, first of all, if I may not answer your question,
absolutely, feel free.
Pick up on a point that Abigail made. I was in Ireland at the time when there was a great discussion about girls going on expeditions. You'd be amazed at the hot air that it generated, and it went on for months. Anyway, my solution was, yes, of course, as long as we have the same number of expeditions again to accommodate girls as well as boys. Good answer? Yeah. To answer your question, one thing I'm surprised that hasn't been mentioned here this evening as something that people have gained from their expeditions is self-confidence. It's a very, very British quality, self-confidence, but there's a particular type of self-confidence which is British, which is restrained self-confidence. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. My first career was in the army, an officer in the Coldstream Guards for 21 years. You know, excellent regiment, 4 operational tours in Northern Ireland. In those days, we all went to Northern Ireland, but the best. When I retired, I went to an aerospace engineering company as a non-executive director. About the most technical, far-sighted
Anthony,
organisation
can you use
imagine.
your microphone, Anthony? They can't hear you online.
Can you hear me now? It's about the most technical organisation you could possibly imagine. But I went from possibly the least technical regiment in the British Army. How did I make the transition? Self-confidence, restrained self-confidence. In summary, you can do anything if you wish to do so.
Thank you. So I think in addition to self-confidence, self-awareness, there's an awful lot of self-awareness, and with that self-awareness in mind, I'm aware of the time. We could speak all evening, we will. We've been talking about our expeditions now for 40 plus years, so it won't stop. So I'll call it a day there and just say thank you very much to my fellow panel members, and thanks to you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. And please do grill our fellow members over a drink afterwards. David Dangor and his family have made it possible for British Exploring Society to deepen our engagement with communities of young people we would not have been able to support previously. He was awarded fellowship by our trustees in recognition of his understanding and championing of the need for every young person to have a fair chance to contribute and to shine. The next 10 years for us will be so profoundly affected by our work with the Dangor family over the last 10 years that we want to share with you, as we near the end of our evening, a film which celebrates the programme which bears his family's name. After the film, David himself has very kindly agreed to join me on stage to say a few words about why he believes in Dangor Next Generation and why it continues to matter. But firstly, please enjoy a film which shows his family's remarkable contribution to who we are now.
Now this project is so unique. It's a powerful combination of two charities coming together, Catch-22 and British Exploring Society, and it creates an extremely unique experience for young people that wouldn't normally get the chance to take on such a challenge.
The Dangor Next Generation programme came at a time that was crucial for us as an organisation, but also for the young people that we wanted and needed so desperately to support.
Helping to launch the Dangor Next Generation programme has been one of the most important decisions of my life. I have an unshakable belief that young people from disadvantaged backgrounds not only deserve, but given a chance, can make a really positive contribution to society. And after 10 years, we've got some amazing success stories to prove it.
What it did for me at that young age, it was a life-changing experience. Dangor's Next Generation opened me up to a newer world. It opened not just the physical side, but the mental side. It opened up my mind to more possibilities, what I can be.
So at the beginning, I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I'd get into the project, and I didn't really know that it was for me. I didn't think it was for me. Looking back, I was so fearful and had such a low self-esteem, and I threw myself into the expedition and enjoyed the whole experience. It took my fear and it made me brave.
That trip really changed my life. It gave me so much confidence. And living in such close quarters with people you've never met before really teaches you how to be open, and it teaches you how to compromise.
I definitely picked up some very important life skills from that expedition, and I learnt a lot about myself. I realised that I could push myself further than I thought I could. It was definitely one of the best experiences of my life.
The Dangor Next Generation project, it smashes down barriers, it builds resilience, it boosts confidence and self-esteem, and it gives young people incredible stories that they'll be able to tell for a lifetime.
It was and continues to be such a special experience for all those who've ever taken part. We've watched countless young people over the years achieve things that they never thought possible, and the effect that can have on an individual is game-changing.
I lived a life within a month that I never thought I would ever live, and it just showed me that anything is possible as long as I put my mind to it.
It's not just about trekking. It's not just about developing endurance. It's not just about developing life skills. It's about finding a unit of people who are going to be there for you. And for me, you know, where I stand, that's invaluable. So to all those people who have been with me for 9 years, love ya.
It's become part of our language, part of the fabric of the place, because this programme has a habit of transforming everything. Young lives, the lives of the leaders and chief leaders who sprinkle magic on it every year, but also us as an organisation. It's changed how we think about the work that we do and the way that we want to move forward as an organisation. It's become our blueprint. Most of all, I'd like to thank the family behind the expedition that bears their name, the Dangor family. You could not wish for a more thoughtful, generous and philosophical partner in the development of such an ambitious expedition programme, and through them we've had an impact on many, many young lives.
I took those skills I learned and took them onto university, and then throughout that it helped me to achieve the goal that I set myself to do, I got a Tier 1, and I still continue to use the lessons I've learned for the 3 trips in my life today.
I'm still 10 years later so thankful that I was able to be a part of it. So thank you to British Exploring and to all the staff and to my crew members. If you're watching this, I hope you're all doing really well. Bye.
Thank you, BES. It was an amazing opportunity.
The Dangle Next Generation project completely stole my heart.
So yeah, that they changed my life. So thank you so much, and happy anniversary.
How can we be 10 years old? We've got so much more to do. So here's to a 10th birthday, but please, here's to future work too. There's still so much more to be done.
David. Thank you. David, would you mind joining me on stage just to say a few words? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening. On our sideboard at home, we've got a picture, Judy and I, on the Stavros Niarchos sailing ship at Tilbury. We were about to set off down the Thames. And that was over 10 years ago in 2011. And on that short trip, we met 4 inspirational people. Peter Pearson, who was Anna's predecessor as chairman, as CEO of British Exploring, and Neil Lawton, who was on the video, who had been in the SAS and various other daredevil things, and then had set up a business and had just sold it for some magnificent sum to devote his life to helping young people find the potential that they have. Also Caroline Hodges, who was brimming with enthusiasm and excitement about what was going, and Chris Wright, who then was and still is the chief executive of Catch-22. And as I got talking to these people and hearing both what they've been doing and what they plan to be doing, and realizing that their stock in trade was making the impossible doable, and their recipe was resilience and determination, which it continues to be so effectively. I thought, what an honor it would be to just be a small part of this journey. And so it has proved over the last 10 years. I was really excited by the fact that BS was taking young people who didn't fit in the way that society, a complex society that we have today, which has to be based on tram lines, exams, academic achievement, going to university or apprenticeship, and then going and interview at jobs and so on. Not everyone fits into that. And there are so many wonderful people who fall by the wayside in those tram lines of modern life. And it's wonderful that in this magical way, these young people find that actually, when they thought they were no good at anything, that they're really capable at so much. And for me, it's not just the pleasure of knowing that young people have been able to see what they have, which they thought they never had. I think as a society, these are special, beneficial people to us. They've been through a different journey. They can teach us all a lot about ourselves and the way we live our lives. So that's another great credit to BES for doing this, and I thank them. I grew up in Baghdad, and I came here at the age of 12. My father had to give up all the businesses and everything he'd built in exchange for freedom. One day he said that was the best bargain I made in my life. But over these years since we left Iraq, I often reflect as why it is that whereas the country I came from, it's been bloodshed and strife since we left, unceasing. And yet here, it's a different sort of society. Now, the answers are complex, and I don't want to put it all into a small thing. But the one thing that struck me as soon as I came here was how much we care about each other's welfare and how much we're prepared to do to make their welfare part of our ambition. And so I just want to say thank you for having an opportunity to participate in this wonderful concept of living together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I'm floored again. The honour is entirely mutual. We're going to finish with Ian McGuinness, our chair, who's going to complete our evening with our plans for the future. And he will finish after that, of course, with our young people, because they're why we're here. And as learning about everyone's individual adventure is always special, some 2022ers will get the last word, sharing their motivations for tackling an expedition with us in the next few months. But now, Ian McGuinness.
Thank you, Honor. I've got to say, I'm floored as well. I really hope you've all enjoyed this evening. Personally, I found it truly inspirational and actually very emotional at times. It's just been a brilliant evening. And I've absolutely loved, in particular, hearing from the young explorers, the panel earlier. That's what this is all about. So thank you very much. I last stood here 2 years ago, shortly after starting as chair. You may remember there was a new disease called COVID that we were all starting to get to know. I remember we learnt how to elbow bump, actually, rather than shaking hands. But I don't think I or anybody else realized just what an impact COVID would have on people's lives over the last 2 years. So I've got to say that, firstly, given everything that's happened, I'm so pleased to be back here again, celebrating the great things that we do to transform the lives of young people. It's brilliant just for us all to be back here in person. And I want to say, with so much uncertainty and so many rule changes, last year could easily have been a year in which nobody went on a British Exploring Society expedition. It was the year of changing or moving goalposts. But we managed to give life-changing experiences to around 500 young people. So, I want to pause here and thank Honor and her team for making this happen. To be honest, I've been absolutely humbled by what's happened over the last 2 years. I've been overwhelmed by Honor and her team's resilience, enthusiasm, and commitment in what were exceptionally difficult years. So, Honor and everybody in Honor's team, thank you very much. So, as you've heard, this is our 90th birthday year. 90 years ago, we were founded by George Murray Levick. And in our big birthday year, we're reflecting on our past, but thinking about our future. Particularly what we want to achieve over the next 10 years to our 100th birthday. And for 90 years, we have transformed the lives of young people through adventurous learning and travel, going to some of the world's most unique and wild places. Our expeditions are not mass-produced, but they are bespoke and challenging, so that we maximize the learning and development of our young explorers. And as you've heard, an absolutely fundamental part of our approach has been the skills, experience, and commitment of our volunteer leaders, who give their time freely to help others. In recent years, we've taken something that was already really good and made it even better. The big change is that we have become much more inclusive, providing opportunities to an increasingly diverse group of young people, many from disadvantaged backgrounds. And for me personally, this is the most important thing about British Exploring Society. I know from my own personal experience working with young people in the outdoors how much they benefit and learn. But I love the fact that we offer opportunities to young people from all backgrounds, many of whom normally wouldn't get the chance. And to do this, we've had to make some pretty big changes. We've developed our fundraising so that no young person now has to pay for their place. And that's taken away a major barrier to people joining us. And we've developed new partnerships to help us recruit and support young people on their journey with us. So, the question now is, how do we take things further and make what we do even better? And I'd like to thank the leader panel, actually. I noted down your ideas, and I'm now going to replay them. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and our strategy for the next 10 years, which we're calling A Wild Future, and I think you'll find out in the lobby there's booklets on it if you want to know more. Our strategy for the next 10 years is all about becoming more sustainable. What we want to be able to do is to keep doing the great work we've done for many years, and over time, to do much more of it. And thinking back to the young explorers and everything we heard that was so brilliant, why would we not want to do much more of that? We're thinking about sustainability in three ways: our people, our purpose, and perhaps what most people think about when they hear the word sustainability, our planet. So how we become more inclusive and diverse ourselves so that we can better understand, support, and be role models for the young people we work with. How we deliver our purpose, create high-intensity, long-lasting impact, and grow what we do. And how we better understand and protect our planet. These are the critical things we're focusing on for the next 10 years. So what can you expect to see? Well, firstly, I want to say that the very essence and character of what we do will not change. So we will still be focused on equal access to challenging learning and adventure in the wilderness as an unbeatable preparation for adult life. And we will still be going to some of the wildest and remote parts of the world. But some of the things you will see change are: we want to increase our diversity in our staff teams, our leaders, and our trustees. We want to provide a more significant benefit to more young people, including improving access to our trainee leader program. We want a more intensive focus on how we deliver learning, knowledge, and science. And we want to become carbon neutral by developing new programs and partnerships, making changes to the places we go and our itineraries, and traveling differently and more thoughtfully. Our goals for the next 10 years are ambitious, and they won't be easy to achieve. But I believe they are the right things for us to do. Our fantastic community, which you've heard a lot about tonight, gives me huge confidence that we will achieve these goals. Our community is everybody in this room and many others who couldn't be here tonight who support us in what we do as a charity. Your support is absolutely fantastic and absolutely essential. Together, we will give many more young people access to adventurous learning and travel. So I'm going to leave the last word to some of our young explorers for 2022, because what they say sums up much better than I can what we are all about. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing who I am, about this whole society structure, how different I change, how I could adapt, how I feel, how it's supposed to be in nature. I'm looking forward to pushing myself, even like through doing Duke of Edinburgh. That's changed me so much, especially with perseverance. And I'm really looking forward to meeting people, making those connections, having those memories for life.
On Expedition, I'm looking forward to gaining confidence in working as part of a team, overcoming the barriers that we are faced with. I'm really looking forward to studying the remote ecology of the landscape in such a fascinating and beautiful part of the world. And I think, finally, having the best brew of my life.
On Expedition, I'm most looking forward to everything involved, to be honest, from trekking across a beautiful wild landscape that I've always wanted to go to canoeing for the first time, to meeting wonderful young people who have the same passion as I have for the outdoors, and hopefully gaining some knowledge from them and from the leaders. And I hope I can give something back to everyone as well with my knowledge, as limited as it may be.
On Expedition, I'm looking forward to exploring the wilderness, pushing myself out of my comfort zone and making lifetime memories.
On Expedition, I'm really looking forward to making new friends and hopefully watching the Northern Lights up in Yukon.
On Expedition, I look forward to discover a new country, which is Canada, where I've never been before. Also, I look forward to explore the wild waters of the river Yukon and to engage in conversations with my peers and hear ideas that I've never known of. Also, on Expedition, I look forward to exit my comfort zone again, like I did last year, and to just discover new parts of myself. I believe this expedition will change my life and will push me towards better things in the future.
So wherever you are tonight, whether you're in the room or at home, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everything you've done for us and hopefully will do for us. I look forward to working with you, learning from you, and continuing to be inspired by you. This evening has been incredibly inspiring and very moving. For those of you here in real life, sorry for those of you at home, there are beverages awaiting you on the right-hand side if you'd like to join us for a drink and like to help us to celebrate a little more. Good night and very happy adventures to every single one of you. Thank you so much.